Hi, this is Laura Hamilton, and I'm going to use the website Quizlet to address my topic for my final project in this class. And the topic of my final project is using UDL to enhance STEM education for students with learning disabilities. And regarding Universal Design for Learning, one of the guidelines is to offer many different forms of engagement with content in the classroom, and I found Quizlet to be extremely effective in doing that. So I'm going to simply walk through some of the ways that I have students utilize Quizlet in my classroom to address the content that we happen to be studying. For this particular presentation, I'm going to use this biomolecules set that I created to go along with my curriculum. And I'm simply going to create this particular study set, and once I do that, it's going to come up with 4 different ways to study the content and 3 different ways to play and interact with the content. Typically, I have my students start with the flashcard option, and you can see here there are 31 flashcards in the set, and students have the option of starting with the term, the definition, or both. Typically, I have them start with either the term or the definition. They can also turn the audio on, and that will allow the Quizlet program to actually read what's on each card to the student, which is great for students with language barriers or those who have trouble reading. Anyway, once they've set that up, they can then click to flip, and on the opposite side they'll be given the definition. And they can do that for as many times as they choose, and then they simply just continue to flip through. And they will simply study each of the terms and the associated definition, and in this case there's also some images. So once they've done that, it'll show them that they've advanced through all 31, and they have several other ways that they can interact. Due to time constraints, I'm not going to go through all of these. However, the learning and the spelling typically tend to be a little more difficult for students because, for one, they will write out the term or the definition that they're asked for, which typically can be an issue because if spelling is incorrect, then it will bounce back the answer as being incorrect. And for spelling, they simply spell what they hear as the program will actually speak to them. Typically, what I have my students do is I have them use the test form after they've studied the flashcards several times. And students are required to take the little test or the quiz on that particular study set. They have the option to change the test, so if they're feeling like they just simply want a matching test that particular day, they can start with the definition, the term, and so typically I have mine start with either the term or the definition. You can simply tell it to show the images, and then it'll create a new test. Once it does that, the students can then record their answers on the test screen, and then they can click submit. And it'll check their answers, and it'll give them a certain percent. Let's say, for example, they did not do well on this particular test and they scored a fairly low score. They can simply go back and restudy the flashcards. Then, once they've restudied the flashcards, I will have them come back and take another test, and they can make it whatever test they like. They can have some of each, or they can simply do 1 of the 4, 2 of the 4, whatever they choose. However, you'll notice that they will only be allowed to have 20 of 31 questions. So they'll simply create the test again. They'll go through, they'll answer all of the questions, and once they've done that, once again, they will submit their answers, and they'll be given a percent. Typically, what I have my students do is I'll have them keep retaking the quiz until they score a 70% or higher. Typically on the first test, many students may score lower than a 40. By the second test, they may score somewhere around a 60 range, and then usually by the third time, they've very much been successful in achieving that score of 70% or higher. I find that many students get really excited if they come back with an 80, 90, or even 100%, which is not uncommon. This particular website and this particular approach is great for students with learning disabilities and all students across the disciplines. So I hope you found this particular presentation helpful. Thank you so much.